Hi, my name's Ellie Taylor. I work at the Cheshire Tattoo Studio in Wilmslow and I mostly specialise in black and grey realism and portraits. I've been tattooing for probably about 5.5 years now, including apprenticeship. Grown up watching a lot of tattoo and art related shows and interest in books and in school. It was one of my favourite subjects. Obviously everybody's seen the LA Ink, New York, London. I think that had a lot to do with it. My mum has always been into art. She did a lot of art and science in school, but she followed the science route and always regretted it. In a way, she's kind of living a little bit vicariously through me because I went the art route instead. Apparently when I was a child, I said to my mum that I wanted to do it, but I don't remember this. I actually came in for one of my first few tattoos here for a design that I'd drawn myself, which is quite a common thing, I think, with no expectation of it whatsoever. I wasn't even searching for an apprenticeship at the time, but I had my sketchbook with me. Lee was here as a guest artist at the time before he was an owner, and he asked if he could have a look at it. Showed him and he asked if we wanted to have a chat about an apprenticeship perhaps. I just kind of fell into it. So the way I started learning was I had a full-time job and I was a student at the time at university. As much as I possibly could, I came in here and practiced on fake skin. I watched a lot of the other artists tattooing. Eventually they started letting me put stencils on actual clients for them. When I got a little bit better at that, I got some friends and family involved and was allowed to tattoo people, and it just progressed from there really. But it did take a while to get good enough on fake skin. And I think there was another apprentice here at the time who sadly left, but it was a nice environment to be around with other people working, and it was a bit of like motivation and friendly competition as well to have them there. I've always been interested in drawing, mostly realism with pencils, tiny bit of experience with paint, not a lot. I tried to obviously go above and beyond and make big designs, big intricate things which aren't going to translate very well for an apprentice, so I had to kind of dial it back and start off small again and learn the fundamentals with line work, small amounts of shading, get those things right first before I could kind of do all the things that I was trying to do in my head at the end. I think it took roughly 3-4 months before I started on fake skin, and then it took about a year from first coming here to my brother was one of my first clients, who probably still hates me to this day for it because he was not having a good time. I've tattooed him since and he's a lot happier now. I was here as much as I possibly could be in between the full-time job and university, coming in before shifts, after hours. Luckily, Lee, my mentor, stayed late with me a lot to help me learn, practice, showed me little tips and tricks, and that did help speed the process up a lot because he was very tolerant and patient with me. The first couple of years of tattooing, I was still only doing it part-time, working also part-time in a restaurant, just trying to juggle both. Meant obviously a lot of late nights, early mornings, and I think it took until about 2020 when I swapped them around and did this full-time and that one part-time, and then I left my part-time job in 2022 when COVID roundabout came to a close. I couldn't do both anymore. It was too many hours, too many late nights. If I wasn't working my other job, I was spending time designing for the next day or the next week, just trying to stay on top of everything. I luckily got busy enough that I didn't need the other job, which obviously is great, but it's not for everybody. At the minute in tattooing, I feel like I'm just kind of finding my footing with my style. For a long time I was in between wanting to be a neo-traditional artist and a realism artist, and I think it was only when I kind of decided I definitely want to be realism, which should have been an easy choice because that's how I've designed my whole life. That's when things started to drastically improve, I noticed, with my own work. I feel like now I've just gotten to that point where I'm happy with it, but I still know I can really go further. Looking at all these other artists that are so inspirational, I just want to keep going and progress as much as I possibly can and learn everything there is to learn. There's some of the best advice I've ever received is in realism in portrait work, slow down. Really slow down, turn your voltage down and just build up the shades. And it makes such a difference, it really does. And I see incredible artists like David Vega, obviously now posting on Instagram, doing one-on-one sessions, but sharing what he's doing and what he's teaching them. And just even seeing those is helpful. Just watching how slow they're working, how to build it up, and to trust the process, because it might not look, well, it definitely won't look like the finished result at the beginning, and to just build it. That was great advice. A big breakthrough moment has been attending conventions, especially because this is a small town. There's only a couple of studios. You're with the same artists every day. They see you work, they know what you can do. But being introduced to other artists, not only can they see your work, talk to you about that, you can talk to them about their work, ask them questions. They're all very helpful. All of them are generally very friendly, especially in the UK. And seeing what people can do, not just on social media, because you see just the highlight reels on social media, seeing the process of the tattoos and the stencils all the way through to the finished pieces, if you want to stick around the show that long, which I definitely do, is just fantastic, because they can tell you the bits that they've struggled with or that they've enjoyed the most, and you can relate and talk to each other about it, which you can't do on social media. Everyone's too busy nowadays. They just use it to put the work out, reply to clients, and then they try and ignore it as much as possible when they can. Another fantastic thing about conventions is meeting other artists, getting to know them, getting invited for guest spots or asking for guest spots. A lot of people are more than happy to talk to you and offer you a spot for a week or so. That's ended up getting me a spot in Scotland, Wolverhampton, Ashton, Birmingham, a couple of which are coming up, which I'm very much looking forward to. And that's taught me a lot, being with these people in their natural environment where they're comfortable and I'm the stranger there, which is obviously scary at first. They're more than happy to help, which is lovely, and you get to meet their clients and how they work on the daily. That's really nice, and they've always got more than enough advice to give. Definitely would recommend anybody to go on guest spots. On guest spots, you definitely do have to adjust quite a few things, because you're not used to the station, how much space you're going to have, the clients you definitely haven't met before if you go far enough away. Sometimes there's a language barrier. There definitely was for me in Scotland, because I'm terrible with accents. It's a very new situation, and you have to be willing to speak to people and be friendly enough to take on anything, really, because you're not always guaranteed work. You're not known in the area, they don't know you. A lot of the time you might have to take on walk-ins if you can't pre-book anybody. Being friendly is definitely your best bet. Since I started to go to conventions, which was only last year for the first time, I think I did 4. The first one was quite a big one, which was very nerve-wracking. Everybody on our row was really friendly. That was lovely. And then after that, I think I just got a bit of a taste for it. The next 3, amazing, all different sizes, still dotted around, but mostly quite small. And then I won my first one at the second one I did. That was strange. It was very exciting. I think for everybody, the first one's really exciting. It doesn't change a great deal. It feels amazing, don't get me wrong. For clients, it's nice to be able to say it. I'd say it's an ego thing more than anything. Like, it's nice to be able to say, yes, I've been validated by my peers, because that just feels good. Everybody will admit that feels good. But at the end of the day, those people's opinions at the show, which, yeah, you might value extremely highly, which is fantastic, but the people in your hometown don't know those people, and they might not have been at that show, haven't seen what it was like, the stress you've been through at that show to do that piece. It means different things to different people, I think. For me, I'm very goal orientated, so that was definitely on my to-do list, which was nice. But I think now I've done a few small shows. We've done this one this weekend, which didn't enter anything out. I just wanted to enjoy it for what it was. Great, but stressful. I'm going to try and gradually build up to bigger shows, not just for trying to win awards, just to meet more people, because I've visited a couple this year and the quality of work has been insane. So many people I've just stopped, talked to, asked how they're doing, what they're doing, and they've all been happy to talk to me about it. Met some really nice people, still message a few of them. They offer advice where they can. I still send them pictures of my work, and it's really nice to get feedback, critical, or everybody's just really friendly. In general, what I like about my profession, even when it's difficult, I love my job. The more challenging the design, the better. Sometimes, obviously, everybody's had difficult clients. Can be stressful, but then in the end, when you get the right design and you still make them happy, it's even more rewarding almost. The designing side of it, I love. The tattooing side of it, even better. Bringing something to life, somebody at the end of the day is extremely happy with and they get to go home with, is just fantastic. And seeing from the beginning of the consultation where they tell you what you want and they've got a few ideas in mind, they might show you a few pictures. Sometimes it's a bit harder, but a lot of the time you'll think, right, we can do this. Like a couple of ideas come to mind and they go like, yeah, or no, sometimes. And you build a picture together, that's really nice. And then it gets to come to life, you share ideas, photos back and forth of the designs, and it's just fantastic when you get that message back and they're like, yes, I love it, like amazing, I'm so happy, I'm excited for this now. I like a lot of things about my customers. A lot of them are really easygoing. They either know what they want or they don't know, and they're willing to let me have a lot of free reign, which is really nice, because they'll come in with a rough idea, not too rough, they do give a little bit of guidance, and say, just run with it, I trust you, which is really nice to hear. That's probably partly the perfect client, somebody that's willing to give you free reign, which is lovely, because knowing that somebody puts that trust in you and believes that you're going to execute it well is huge. That's just so nice to hear. And that's what I really like about a lot of my regulars, is that they have that level of trust. In general, the tattoo industry, I think, is going through another boom. New styles are being developed constantly, little adaptations here and there, and seeing other artists try new things and it become a different genre in itself, I think is really exciting, because everybody's, I think, developing their own way of doing things a little bit. And it's great that everybody has clients for that style, and I think that just leads to more unique people walking around with tattoos. Everything's coming together. The equipment's getting better, social media is getting better, it's getting harder, but it's getting better. The design work's getting better, what we can do on skin is getting better. Even my family, who think, oh, she's a tattoo artist, they think they've got an idea in their head, and then they come to something like the show this weekend and they see what's actually possible. I wouldn't have imagined that if they hadn't have come. Now they're kind of excited, and my family's like, oh, I might get another one. I might get something done this weekend. It's just amazing to see more people attracted to it because of all these new possibilities that they just didn't have before, I think. Well, they've had it for a while, but it's not what they have in their head when they think of the industry. I think the industry is going in a good direction in general. I think it's gonna force a lot of people to start thinking a bit more outside of the box, because your average street shop, for example, probably gets people through the door that have seen designs on Pinterest or Google and says, I want this. People are starting to realise they can't just copy anymore, or at least it's frowned upon, so they're having to come up with new ways to change things, even if the client's pretty strict on what they want. They still need to make it original, and everybody's having to think of new ways to do a lion or a pocket watch to still make it interesting but different. It is getting better. Annoyingly, I don't want to say it, AI's got a lot to do with it, because people see these images on skin that aren't actually tattoos, and they come in and they say, can I have this? And you have to say, I'm really sorry, that's not real. That's not gonna last if we do that exact image. It's just not the way your skin will work. It'll break it down. It's too small. It's too fine line. In 10 years, we have to explain the problems with what they're after, which they don't want to hear sometimes, but it's the reality of a tattoo. I definitely think I'll have to adapt my style. I'm just finding my feet with the portrait and realism, and I think I'm trying to do new things with design concepts at the minute, and I think it does help when you're trying to change your style a little bit to obviously offer them out for free or for cheaper, just so you can experiment a little bit more. I think it's hard to sometimes find clients for that because it's too different and they don't know how it's going to look when they just have an idea of what a tattoo should look like in mind, and the general public might not know, again, what's possible and what could look really cool. When I look at tattoos myself, I think the things that stand out the most are definitely contrast, composition, and placement. Composition, I more tend to lean towards interesting and weird things at the moment. Different elements that just make it more interesting for the eye to look at. Contrast is a big one as well. Making sure there is enough black in a piece to make it stand out and last. But again, it depends on what style of tattoo I'm looking at. As much as I love realism and portrait work, if I'm looking at a colour tattoo or a neo-trad black and grey or colour, or trad or anything, I can still appreciate it for what it is. A lot of the time with colour, it's like, how the hell do you do that so damn well? Because I can't wrap my head around it. There are different elements in each, I think, to look out for. It's just what stands out, I suppose. If you know the tattooing industry, you kind of know what to look for that makes each style unique, very distinctive to that style. So I think it depends what you're into, but I just appreciate them all. As for myself, when I design tattoos, I just try and make them as cohesive as possible, I suppose. So every element flows to the next. I think my design style is still changing. I'm always designing new pieces, a lot of pop culture references, I think, trying to integrate elements of things that are relevant to make them bigger. My design work's just getting larger, I'd say, with more elements being included, them getting more complicated, trying to challenge myself really, which I think is a good thing to keep doing because it ends up with a much more rewarding end product. The designs that I have done and that are available or get in touch, they can check out my Instagram if they want. It's ellitaylor.tattoos on Instagram. That's pretty much the only social media I use for work, just so everything's all in one place. And I hope this has all been coherent enough for YouTube. This whole interview has definitely put me out of my comfort zone. It's good to try new things.